and our regional leasing roundtables yesterday were the brainchild of our moderator, Wes Deese, and his team of Student Housing Insight ambassadors. Wes is the owner of Providential Student Housing and also the mastermind of industry podcast Student Housing Insight. He has over 20 years of experience in this industry, ranging from being an on-site resident director to being the COO of an 11,000-bed national portfolio. With experience in over 40 markets and having worked as both a merchant developer and in the value-add space, Wes launched Providential in 2017, or 2017, to be a consulting firm specializing in helping investors and developers better understand operational needs and provide an array of services from due diligence to asset management. Student Housing Business and LeaseCon+TurnCon would like to thank Wes very sincerely for his support of this event and for helping us keep our content timely, topical, and engaging. I know this panel is going to be a home run, so please join me in welcoming our student resident speakers and my friend Wes Deese.
Well, thanks, Rich, and if everybody will also give another hand clap to Rich and the Interface team for putting this conference on. This is a big conference for this industry because there's not a lot on the industry that is focused on operations, especially at the site level. So, Rich, thanks again. So, let me talk a little bit about our SHI ambassadors. These are 12 folks that are your industry peers that are helping me out throughout the year with content and other stuff. And they were the ones that kind of came up with this idea. So if you're one of the SHI ambassadors, would love for you to stand. Thanks, guys. So I went to them back in July and I said, guys, I want to go back to Rich and Randy with a couple of ideas on new content, new topics, and I can't remember exactly who it was, but one of them came back and said, it'd be really great to talk to our customers and actually have a panel of students who are using our product. And I said, yeah, that's a great idea. It's in December, and they've all got exams. So if you think it's hard to get leases signed during exams, think how hard it is to get students to come to Charlotte to attend a panel. So a big thanks to you guys for, I know several of you are right in the middle of exams right now, so thank you so much for taking the time to do this. We are a short one. We had one that was coming from Texas Tech, and if you've ever flown from Laredo, you know how hard it is to get a flight that's on time, and so he was not able to make it, but got a fantastic crew up here. And with that being said, I want to turn it over to them really quick and go through introductions. So just name, university, major, and what year you're in school, and we'll go from there.
Hi everybody, I'm Anna Orell. I am a sophomore at the University of South Carolina, and I am a nursing major.
Hi, I'm Hannah. I'm also a sophomore at the College of Charleston, and I'm an accounting major.
Hey, I'm Gracie. I am a senior at Western Governors University, and I'm getting my degree in marketing.
Hi everyone, I'm Linnea Haynes. I'm a junior at College of Charleston, majoring in hospitality and tourism management.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Bynan. I'm a junior at the University of South Carolina, and I'm the public health program.
Great, thanks guys. So what I wanted to really kind of start off with this was just your journey from, many of you moved on campus. Some of you went straight from high school into move into an off-campus community. So really just wanted to talk to you guys about that journey, what kind of went into it, what was the thing that really kind of sparked it, to begin with? Was it you're getting kicked off of campus and you've got to go off campus? Was it roommates? What was it that really kind of started that process for you, and maybe what year that was for you guys?
Yeah, I'll start. So I lived in the dorms my freshman year, and what sparked me living off campus was just that there's not enough space in dorms, to keep sophomores, juniors, and seniors in the dorms. There's just not enough space. So I started looking about this time, probably October, this time my freshman year. And the biggest thing with that was just trying to find a place close on, not on campus, but slightly off, close enough to campus that I could drive to. So area was a big thing, and also pricing, was the biggest thing. Matching up what I paid for living in a dorm with where I'm going to be living in an apartment. So that's what striked my off-campus housing right now. But yeah.
I do want to say one thing about Anna. This is, hopefully we get to do this year after year, but it was great that we've actually got her mother in the crowd, because Joanne, I don't know if I hope you're in here. Joanne is actually with MRI software, and so I think we're going to end up having some questions for you before all this is over with. So we get the parent perspective as well.
So I also lived in the dorms my freshman year, and I also had to look around this time, or around October, for off-campus housing. We were very adamant about finding a house at first in Charleston, which is obviously very difficult, especially in a great price range. We did end up looking at a bunch of apartments and choosing one mostly because of price, availability, and location was another huge thing, trying to stay close to campus in a safer area, but also just, that's really all. I don't know.
So I actually went to community college first and got my associate's degree. So right out of high school, I knew I was going to be living off campus because I wanted as much of a college experience as I could get. So luckily I had 2 friends from high school who graduated the year before me, and they were moving off campus. And one of their parents owned the unit that we were going to be living in. So that's really how I chose my first year.
For me, Charleston is a very small little downtown peninsula, so, after being in the dorm, you had to kind of find your way. They didn't have enough housing for everyone, and my friends and I were all from out of state, so we wanted to stay somewhere very centralized to campus, since we would be walking most of everywhere.
So I also started in a dorm freshman year, and honestly, around America, my grade was record-breaking for admissions. So all over the internet, all you could find was people freaking out that were in my grade about finding housing. And that's actually what sparked me to start looking, because I saw the University of Tennessee Knoxville kids that I know that go there standing in lines for hours. Thankfully, at South Carolina, you do not have to stand in lines to get leases. But we did start looking, I want to say in September of my freshman year is when people started looking and leases started getting already signed up. And I already had some friends going to South Carolina that were a year or 2 older than me, so I kind of inquired with them on where they had lived, what they had heard about different places, a lot of peer interaction on where would be a good place to live.
So a follow-up question, and you mentioned, on the internet, so I want to dig into that a little bit. Was that, was it a Reddit thread? Was it something specific that?
So it was TikTok. There were a lot of TikTok videos about people waiting in lines, specifically at the University of Tennessee Knoxville, and I want to say in Miami and the places around there, bigger universities, people just posting lots of videos about the process of trying to find an apartment there, how quickly apartments go, and then that kind of sparked a lot of rumbling in my class at USC, where everyone was like, oh, we probably need to do that as well. And thankfully, there's a different process and we don't have to wait in lines, but a lot of people did wait. Dates would get sent out for when we could tour and when we'd be able to start leasing, and people would call that day the second it opened to get their lease. So
my follow-up question to each of you guys on this, so there was that spark, you're getting thrown off campus or whatever. What was kind of the first step that you took was it for me 28 years ago, it was picking up these things called the apartment guide that were at the grocery store and started looking through them. So I know that's changed. So Hannah, let's start with you. What was kind of that first step?
There was a lot of Googling and looking on Zillow and rent.com. We did talk to a lot of our peers about houses that may be becoming available from seniors or whatever we could do to find any sort of house. But when we started looking at apartments, it was mostly talking to our peers about, oh, can we tour your room? We did have some problems with touring the apartment we live in now because they don't have a showroom. So when we went to view the apartment, we could only see the common spaces. But we did fortunately have a friend that lived in there, so we got to see kind of what we were going to get. That was really the only process. I mean, we only toured 2 apartments because we felt like we were very time constrained with everyone taking up leases and prices going up. They would give us sort of deals, like if you sign now, you can pay this much. And we were like, oh, it's gonna go up in a week, we need to hurry. So that was really our process.
Well, like I said, I went to the community college and then my high school friends owned the apartment that we lived in, so I can really answer it for my second year. My second year, I wanted to meet more people and they were making their own friends at the university, so I went on Facebook, and Clemson has a student housing Facebook group, and it's for anybody at the community college, anybody at the university. It's for like, they can, if people want to sublease their place, anything like that. So I just went on there to try and just find some people, found 2 girls that I wanted to live with, and really, I had been to where I live now, was managed actually by my company, Tiger Properties. So I had already been to their community events, and I had seen everything on their Instagram with like giveaways or just things they did. So I just told them, I was like, hey, I really like this property. Y'all should look at it. They did the virtual tour. They loved it. And then we signed a lease literally like the next week.
Yeah, I ended up living with my roommates from my freshman year, and I think the most important part was finding a space for all of us that fits into all of our budgets and makes our parents feel comfortable as to how far we have to walk and things like that. So, doing a quick Google search really just brought us to what was closest to campus, which is where we've been living for the past 2 years now.
Yeah, I lived with some people from one of my classes freshman year, actually. We have a University 101 program at the University of South Carolina, and I made some friends in that class, and we pretty much just started Googling all of the like student housing apartments near campus, because we wanted to be close to campus, but not right on campus. And non-student housing is pretty expensive. So we kind of just went through the process of Google and Zillow and apartments.com and all of those different websites.
So now you've kind of you've gotten this list together, maybe 2 or 3 properties or places that you want to look at. You're starting that process with your friends. My next question is, who else came into play in that decision making? I'm assuming it's your parents for the most part. But just kind of walk through, now you've zoned in on, where you guys are wanting to live and some options. Take us to the next point in making that decision. Who was involved? What were those conversations like?
Yeah, I say primarily my parents. My older sister actually went to the University of South Carolina as well and graduated from there the year that I graduated high school. So I called her a number of times to ask her about different places, because she knew a lot about the different apartment buildings there and where I should and shouldn't live. She played a pretty big role in that, just as someone who had already experienced it. And I would say my other friends who had lived places that we did narrow it down to and toured, who knew whether there was good maintenance or management or things like that. I asked around a lot to those people, but mostly talking with my parents, the other people I was going to live with, and their parents, and finding like a good kind of budget for all of us, as they're like people in different financial situations. So finding a good median, and just making sure everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, I think making sure that, like I said, there was 4 of us, so one of my friends, her parents were like, you have to be close to college, I want to make sure you're safe. For me and another one of my friends, I was like, if I'm more than 5 minutes away from class, I'm not going. So I needed something like close that I can walk, or if it's raining and snowing, I'm like, I'm not going to be walking in class and that. So kind of just looking at everything that we all wanted and finding that common space. Of course, we're close to beaches, so we're like, we don't really care about having a pool or something like that. We just wanted something where we could all be together and like feel comfortable.
Yeah, my roommates, one went to the university and then one went to the community college. So one wanted to be able to be on the bus route and within like 10 minutes of campus. And luckily, right where our house was, it was 10 minutes from the university and 10 minutes from the community college. So that was really their main concern, as well as mine, just being able to drive there. And then we had friends that lived there, so we also just asked them how they felt about the community, maintenance, the management, and everything like that. I obviously love the management so much, I decided to work there, so. But yeah.
All of my roommates, we were really focused on price, I feel like. Our budget was based on our parents, and the location of it was really important to us, walkable to campus. Our friends had actually already signed a lease to live there, so we felt like we would have at least people we knew to go through it together, and that was our final
Now,
decision.
Anna, you've got a slightly different story, because you didn't rent, you and your mom decided to become investors and actually purchase a townhome. So I'd love to, I don't know if, Rich, if we can get Joanne a mic, but would love to kind of understand what went into that decision. And yeah.
I'll start out, and then if she wants to add in, feel free. But so when we first started out, obviously when the time comes, you feel time crunched, and everyone's looking for apartments, and who am I going to live with, and it's a whole thing. But I did start looking at apartments early on, because like the pressure of figuring out where you're living next year and the security of where I'm going to be living, so I can plan out my classes, and so I can plan out this and that. It's like everything all together. So I did look around at apartments first, especially, I don't know if any of y'all are familiar with Columbia, but I remember looking at like the Station, the 9, all those apartment complexes, which are relatively close to campus. It's where a bunch of my friends live now too. But the biggest thing that I was looking at was probably safety. That was my biggest thing. When you're living in a city, and Columbia is not the safest place on the planet, which not every college town is always, but when you're living in a city, I think the biggest thing for me was, okay, well, I need to be able, not that I need to be able to walk, but I need to be able to walk around and not be, scared of who is out there. So that was the biggest thing when I was looking for apartments and obviously a place to live. And knowing my mom, like she works at student housing, all the things, she was like, after my brothers went through, their apartment stories, scary. She was like, you know what, let's just look at property. And at first we were like, well, okay, maybe we rent, we do rent out, but then we ended up, going through the whole buying the house and all the things, but I'll let her add on to that. But I think the biggest thing was safety for me. Obviously pay too as well, but I also think that if you're living in a place that's safe and where you can walk to certain things, and class wasn't the biggest thing for me. I mean, as a nursing major, I need to go to class, so whether it was 10 minutes away or 4 minutes away, I'm going either way. But yeah, that's probably my biggest thing was that. And then if Mom, you want to add on?
Sure. For so Anna is not my first rodeo. I have 2 boys that are have since graduated or at school up in App State in Boone, and Boone's a very crunched student housing market, and just having gone through what we did with renewals and all of that, and so we started looking, and I felt like we were coming up on that same experience, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to take all this knowledge that I've gained from working in this industry for many, many years, and we're going to invest in housing. It's tough in Columbia because a lot of the stuff is older as well. We actually got really fortunate and were able to find a townhouse that had bedrooms each with their own bath, which I think is super important, as you guys all know, like having that individual space. And location was probably the most important thing, not only for security, but like time to be able to get over to campus, and related to where your classes are. Columbia is a pretty big campus, so you need to be able to find reasonable parking within a short amount of time that's close to where your classes are. So that's where we ultimately ended up. I will share that with her roommates, again, they were all looking together at apartments. So I did my own shopping because I wanted to be able to set a reasonable rent price that was going to be acceptable to everybody. And I had one parent that was like upset with me initially, but I did do my research and kind of, look at.
So College House said that this was the right price.
Yeah. That would have been I should have done that. You're right. I actually did reach out to my friends at Walk to Campus who have a lot of like similar type product in that area, and even for a lease example. But just looking at like, okay, without amenities, parking, location, what was like a reasonable rent rate to set. And I went a different approach, and this is something that was, as a parent, was very challenging in the Boone market, was like all the separate charges for everything and having to go to like multiple payment platforms. So we went a bundled rent approach, where I did the research on how much was electricity going to cost and all the things. And so it's like one stop, one price, and not having to make multiple payments, divide out utilities across your different roommates and all that. I think that just simplifying it is really, really great for not only your student residents, but their parents as well.
Great. So what's the plan after she graduates? You gonna?
We'll see. We might keep renting it. Yeah.
So, now we're kind of at that final decision mode, and I really want to kind of ask, how much did the on-site staff that you were working with, how much did they really play into you making that final decision, and or was it not really something that you guys took into account?
So one of my roommates specifically, she wanted an in unit. That was like her biggest thing. She wanted to be on the very end, had nobody on both sides of her. And she called, the guy on the phone immediately was like, yeah, for sure, that's not an issue. Gave us the unit we wanted. My parents work every single day, so they had one specific day that they could move me in, and it just happened to be early move-in. I called like twice. Once he clarified I could do it. The second time I was just double checking. He automatically was like, yeah, you're perfectly fine. You're good, you can move in early. And every single time he was extremely nice. Didn't make me feel like I was a burden or make me feel like I was getting on anybody's nerves, because that's always my biggest worry. I never want to make anything harder for anybody. So everybody was extremely nice, and the move-in process was extremely easy, and moving in early went perfect. So yeah.
I think for us, the biggest thing was, having those accommodations. We were looking for a 4-bedroom. They didn't have any available, but they took the time to really sit us down and let us know our options, and, really made it so we can still kind of get that feel of living together next to each other on the same floor, even though they didn't have what we initially were looking for. And I think because they were so transparent about that and really helped us visualize what we would be getting instead of what we saw, that was a big deciding factor.
I don't think it played as much of a factor, more so because we kind of got the same experience from pretty much everywhere we toured and talked to. And I will say in Columbia, it's not always the greatest experience with management. Generally, it's kind of subpar, unfortunately, but because pretty much everywhere is the same, it really didn't play much of a factor in deciding. Yeah.
Our management people were very kind to us, even though we had that experience where we went to try and tour and there was no rooms available. Well, since then, they've changed that and they let you tour rooms that are occupied because they've actually toured our room. But other than that, we really didn't have a lot of experience with them. They were very kind when we did, but didn't talk to them much.
Okay. My next question, and we found out on the prelim call that, you four have not, obviously, Anna, you haven't moved out. You and your mom haven't got an argument to the point that she's had to kick you out. But the other three, you're still in the first place that you moved into. And I really wanted to kind of get an idea from anybody who, has moved into off-campus housing and then later decide to move out. And Stephanie, you had that experience. Can you kind of give some background as to what played into that? Was it a price thing? Was it roommates wanted to move different places? What kind of spurred that for you?
So my sophomore year, me and my friend from my class, we ended up living with 2 randomly selected roommates in a 4-bedroom apartment. And after that year, we decided we wanted to live in a 2-bedroom apartment. And also due to the rent being raised at the place we were living before.
Not in Columbia, South Carolina. Rates haven't risen.
What? No, that's crazy. They would never raise prices on us. Yeah, so definitely price was a big factor in it. I knew a lot of people living in 4-bedroom apartments and other buildings that were paying significantly less than we were paying per person in our 4-bedroom. So it just felt like very not worth what we were paying for what we were getting living in a 4-bedroom. It's nice having roommates, but it can also be a lot. I personally had to go get a mini fridge because 4 girls in a college apartment and 1 freezer and 1 fridge does not go well, especially when like 3 of them are athletes. Doesn't go well. Lots of food, lots of protein powder, lots of protein shakes. But I say price was probably the biggest factor on moving. We did look at 2-bedroom units in the building we were living in, but it was going to be almost double what we're currently paying at our apartment now as it at that place. So
Gotcha.
that was the main thing.
So roommate splitting up and then price as well. Okay.
Yeah, I would say they were raising, even if we wanted to stay in our 4-bedroom, it would have been about $100 more a month from the previous year. And so now we're living in a 2-bedroom apartment for much less rent than even in the 4-bedroom. So.
Well, I want to turn things over to our audience because I'm sure they've got some questions for you guys. But my last question, because you've got a room full of leasing managers and regional managers and property managers from around the country. What are some of the things, and it can be tangible like amenity spaces and design with the furniture or with the units, or something just during the marketing process of how you would like to be able to receive information. What kind of things would you want to share with this group?
Just from like feedback from my friends, and I go and see people all the time, so I'm in and out of different apartments. The biggest thing is always, maintenance things. There's like situations where their door lock breaks, but they can't get it fixed for a month, and like stuff like that. And like obviously, like I said before, safety is a big thing of like what I'm thinking about. So I couldn't imagine coming home and I can't lock my door at night, and someone comes in like late at night, just things like that. And like whether it's maintenance with like,
do they happen to have these little black key fobs that look like we all know about it.
Yeah, no. The key fobs, I don't know. But yeah, biggest thing is things like that, and whether it's maintenance specifically, in your unit, or whether it's maintenance within the entire apartment complex, like your parking doors, like that's broken. Okay, so then anyone can just, go and park, and I'm sure they'll get towed later on, but it's just things like that, just really inconvenient. For what you're paying, you should be able to get what you paid for, and things should be fixed, when you need them fixed. And obviously I know that sometimes things don't always work out how they should. That's understandable. But certain things like that, I think maintenance, and I'll let you go because do you have specific examples? But
Yeah, we've had a pretty great experience normally with our maintenance people, and they will come in a timely manner. We've had trouble with the dishwasher, moldy dishwasher, which was a little gross, and it took them a while to fix it, but eventually they did get around to it, and they were kind and very responsive to us. They just had a lot of maintenance to do right after we had moved in. And I think that might be one of the biggest things, is fully being ready and fully making sure that they check before, because I know some of the people that lived upstairs from us also had the same problem of mold in the dishwasher, and it would have just been nice if maybe they had checked before. Other than that, I mean, we've had some trouble with other appliances, but they've always come and helped us, and if we're not there, they'll leave notes for us to tell us, oh, you needed to turn this switch on for your dishwasher to work, or stuff like that. And the only other thing I would say is safety. Living in downtown Charleston, especially a little bit away from King Street, isn't always the nicest area, and we'll have some experiences that aren't the best. She was talking about the broken gate that is at my apartment, and the gate where you would use one of those little black key fobs has been broken for about 3 months, and anyone can just walk into the apartment, and that's not the best feeling when you're 4 girls living all alone in downtown Charleston. So that would be my only other thing, really.
I just say, like I said about me picking the second place that I wanted to live, the biggest thing was like the staff. And now, like, working in the industry, like, the biggest thing for everybody is they want to have a staff on site if it's possible. Because I know a lot of complaints are people never answer the phones. It's nice to, like, do that. And then me picking where I wanted to live, it was just, the community events were a big thing. It really showed, like, the workers having fun with everybody. And then especially, like, on move-in day when I walked in and I was like, hey, I'm here to move in, the guy immediately knew my name. He was like, oh, you're Gracie. And I was like, oh, so you know me. And it's like one of those things where it's like, it's nice to feel like they're not there just to do their job. They're also there kind of to be your friend, and they remember who you are or where your unit is. And like, if you have any issues, they can reach out to you. And it's just like, it's better to feel like they're your friend rather than like, I don't want to go to them with an issue and feel like they're going to hate me for this. And then when it comes to like what I look for in an apartment is light. Light is a big thing for me. Not lots of windows, but like in my room, I like to have windows. The first place I lived, it was like a dungeon. Made me feel depressed, everything. And then this place had a lot of light, and it just better living experience. And then just being friends with the staff and everything like that as well. So.
Yeah, I think for me, I've lived in both like a regular unit in my apartment as well as their newly renovated units. And my old apartment was like top floor, beautiful views of downtown Charleston. But something about having like a newly renovated, more bright light type of environment is just so much better. So I would say, you know, try to keep up with like the interior design and like keeping things fresh, and don't let it dull out, because it makes, you know, so much more of a difference.
Yeah, I would say 2 big things are, definitely maintenance, and back on what Gracie said, the windows. Some units in my apartment building are interior facing, so they do not have any exterior facing windows, and I have a lot of respect for the people that live in those. I don't know how they do it. We do have a skylight above those, so thankfully they do get some natural light, but I personally, that was one of my things when I went to sign my lease. I was like, I do not want to live on an interior facing. They were really great about that, really great about not putting us on the first floor, as my parents didn't want me on the first floor for safety reasons. But a big thing is definitely maintenance. We've had the same problem with our parking garage gate in my building last year. I want to say there maybe was only about a month out of the entire year collectively where the gate was actually working, and most of the time it was just open because it was broken and they couldn't get maintenance to come out and fix it. But things like that, I say I have some water damage on the floor in my apartment now. And then the maintenance crew at my apartment is great. They're very nice people, but they have not been able to get somebody to come out and fix that yet. So I think just keeping up with maintenance, making sure you can like have someone on call, that can be really hard. There's been like a lot of hurricanes coming through that have affected apartment buildings in Columbia. So there's been like leaks and stuff with that. So having somebody on call and just staying on top of maintenance, I think is really important.
So maintenance and communication is the main thing I got out of all that. So, Rich, you want to turn it over for some questions?
Gracie mentioned community activities and actually having resident events. You're the only one that said it, so I was curious how everybody else feels about that, if there's value to it for you. And then I didn't hear anybody mention anything about physical amenities at the community, whether that's pools, study halls, any of those things. So also interested on, does that even play into it when you were looking? So that's my two-part question.
I was actually gonna add to my comment. When I first was looking at my property, social media was very bland. But ever since I've been there, they've been doing so many resident events and so many giveaways and things like that, which like really makes me want to tell my friends about where I live. Also on another part, like because I work there too, like I can never go without a tour without saying like, oh my gosh, make sure you follow our Instagram, like see kind of like the environment we have here and what we're doing. But unfortunately, I can't win any giveaways. That's the only downside. But I'll tell everybody about them because it's just one of the things that kind of brings us as staff with our residents, but as well as like getting to meet new people in the community.
Amenities-wise, my roommates really cared if we had a pool or a gym. I cared about the pool more than the gym. I always said I would go, but that didn't work out very well. But giving tours on the property that I work on, a big thing that I've had a lot of like tenants call about is, do y'all have private study rooms? And then we have had people call about the gym. The pool, a lot of the times when people look at it, they're like, oh, that's just really nice. I know a lot of people during the summer, no matter what, they're gonna want a pool or they're gonna want somewhere to lay out, but it hasn't actually been that huge of a thing that people have mentioned, but a lot of people have mentioned like asking if we will have private study rooms, especially this is kind of the bus stop or a private shuttle. That's been a big thing, which that's always been like that in Clemson. A lot of people on each property that I've worked on, either if there's a bus route, how far away is it from campus, and the specific property I work on, we're gonna have a private shuttle, so a private shuttle, but just stuff like that. I have had a lot of people ask about the amenities.
I'll add on just a little bit, and obviously I know I don't live in an apartment complex currently, but I will say, I mean, also I think it just depends on the person you are, but I think study rooms are a huge thing. I often go over to my friends' apartments and we sit in the study rooms together. So like, it'd be so nice, you know, if you don't have your own desk in your room or there's not enough room, you know, stuff like that, having places you could leave your actual apartment and not have to go, you know, all the way to the library wherever you are, but you know, you could just go downstairs and it's a change of scenery, just things like that. I think study rooms are super like helpful with that, and I don't really have much to say about, you know, like events and stuff, but study rooms for sure.
I'm sure you throw a few events. events.
Yeah, I would agree on the study rooms. My current building doesn't have any, but mine did last year, which was great. USC is such a big campus, so many students, it can be really hard to find somewhere on campus, whether it's in the library or the number of other buildings on campus. It's really hard to find somewhere to study sometimes, and driving up there, trying to find parking, not being able to find parking, coming back, can not be fun sometimes. So study rooms are definitely a really big thing. I don't think most of the people that I know really cared whether there was a pool or a gym or that kind of thing, but I will say,
how about golf simulators?
We do have an apartment building right close to campus that has a golf simulator, as well as tanning beds, I believe. And they have a jumbotron on their roof for football games. So, but I will say, I think a lot of the reason USC students maybe don't care as much about pool and gym and all that is we do have a very nice on-campus gym and pool facility. We have indoor like Olympic swimming pools and outdoor swimming and lounging pools where we have volleyball courts, like sand volleyball courts. We have
Did they bring you popsicles?
basketball courts.
Did they bring you popsicles at 1 o'clock? That's the question.
So we have all different sorts of things on campus, and it's pretty accessible. So I think for a lot of us, that wasn't as big as a factor because we can go use those for free anyways.
Yeah.
But like with the personal like shuttle thing for apartment complexes, I think that's also something I didn't even think about, but I live so close that we don't need one. But there are some student-based housing apartment complexes that they're student focused, but they're a lot further from campus and they don't have those shuttles, which can be frustrating for the students I know that live there. Or they only have like one shuttle coming in and out a day, which can be frustrating for people that can't find housing near campus, but also don't have a car with them. So
I want to piggyback off of just what you're saying about like gym amenities and the pool. Like South Carolina does have a really nice, like we have 2 gyms and then we have a giant pool at our main gym and stuff. So especially, specifically South Carolina, a gym and stuff is, not as many people are gonna need one in their apartment complex, but there's also so much parking near the gyms. Whereas you go to the library, that is like on campus, you're gonna have to walk, a good, like about 10 minutes if you can't find parking close to the library. And then adding on to that, the people are at the library all the time. Like whenever I go to a specific floor, I have a specific spot I like to go to, it's weird like that. But like being able to have it right in your apartment complex instead of having, get in your car, drive, and then go to the library, find a spot where someone's not talking or it's not loud. So just small thing about that.
The amenities with my property, we have like a courtyard and a study room, but we don't have a pool or we don't have a gym. The gym that we have is through the school. So I know my property works with a lot of the different businesses in the community, such as like yoga instructors or different like vendors, and like you kind of bring the community around you to the property to kind of make up for the things that aren't physically there.
Any other questions?
Hello. I'm curious if how much online reputation or reviews played into your apartment searches or housing search, if any.
reviews definitely played a lot. There are buildings near USC's campus that are focused towards students that if you go into their reviews, they have nothing nice to say about them. And I also do know people that live there that haven't had a great experience. So they definitely did play into it, but I also wanted to back it up because I know sometimes people can have one bad experience and just go off of that and write a horrible review. So personally, we did definitely look at reviews and ratings and that kind of thing, but then also follow up on that by still going to tour, asking people we know that live there, that kind of thing. I think a lot of people still do that where we look at the ratings, but also kind of double check with that because they can be inaccurate and not really a good example of the building.
Yeah, I agree with that. We looked at one apartment complex that had reviews that were saying, kids party here all the time, you'll never get to sleep, you'll never get to study, and it did turn out to be true, but we did back check that and make sure that it was true through people that lived there. And we asked a lot of questions, I think, among friends and among just people during the search that we came upon. But yeah, the reviews, a lot of them are very bad, but it's a lot of the time based off of just one small experience that people sometimes blow out of proportion, I feel like. And there are reviews on the apartment that I live in now that are just awful sometimes, and I haven't had that experience, and a lot of people also haven't had that experience, so I think back checking was really important.
You mentioned your search kind of began with Zillow.
Yes.
Was it reviews through there? Was it the Google business page reviews? Specifically, what reviews were you looking at? We
were looking at Google reviews most of the time, Yelp I think was coming up, stuff like that, just what people put on Google, the things that came up right away.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, also, again, just adding on, I just think that when you have a college student, most people aren't going to go and look in depth unless they're like definitely set on living there and they need to search it up. So if you're getting a lazy college student, they're going to go on maps and go, type in the apartment complex, and then they're just going to scroll down and they're just going to 4-star, 5-star, or 1-star. And then you get a 1-star, and then you get these beautiful pictures of this giant pool and, all this stuff. So there's just a lot of discrepancy, I think, between what the apartment wants you to see and then the reviews, but then there's that, they get a 1-star review because one person had a bad experience, they got the middle room, there's no light, but then you get someone who lived on the end and beautiful view, great lighting, so just
adding on to that, our apartment complex has a really active Instagram page, and they will go and post reviews from students that live there, and I think that was also helpful. And they also did a great job, I didn't talk about this before, but posting amenities and posting, oh, we're upgrading the gym, oh, we're gonna have bagels in the office this morning, and I think that's great. They are very, they reach out a lot through social media. Before we were even looking for apartments, they followed a lot of students at the college, just random students, I guess, that they saw. Yeah. But that was helpful in finding an apartment.
Rich, I know we're getting close to the end, but I know we've got another question.
Do we have time for one more question? All right, how about you just belt it out?
First of all, thank you, Wes, for getting these intelligent ladies up here. So I really appreciate their value that they've added. My question is, what social media accounts do you guys follow and why? The reason why I'm asking is, we all like to keep the trends and try to give you guys what you want. So what are some social media accounts that you guys are following and why do you follow them?
I feel like Instagram would be the biggest place where I'm looking at apartments. I know TikTok.
Alyssa, was the question more on influencers or actual platform?
Yeah, not necessarily platforms, just handles. So what handles are you following? So obviously there's bloggers and those types of things. Maybe Revolve is another good example. But what are you guys looking for and why?
I mean, I guess just the specific whatever apartment complex you're at. I feel like following the specific, Instagram handle that's specifically this apartment, if that makes sense. So I feel like I wouldn't go and follow an influencer for an apartment, if that makes sense, but I would go and I would follow the actual apartment's page.
I would agree with that. And also with Instagram, I know a lot of, say my building has a TikTok account and sometimes it pops up, but it's not very popular, and I don't think that it's something that really gets out there when trying to reach students. But I would agree with the Instagram. When I'm looking for that kind of thing, I'm looking for specific accounts for the buildings. But I also think having more interpersonal kind of things on the building social medias could be good. I feel like the less personal it is, the less I'm enticed to live somewhere. So that's a big thing for me, is seeing that there are people genuinely enjoying where they're living, on the page, seeing last year we had residents do takeovers on the Instagram account where I lived, and that was cool to see before we lived there, to kind of they do day in my life as a USC student living at XYZ on the Instagram account, which was you get to see how someone living there lives, which was definitely interesting for me.
Yeah, and like I said with my property, we really like to go out in the community and work with a lot of the small businesses and whatnot. So looking at different food guides for the destination of Charleston is a big thing, and you can kind of do little giveaways with them, and kind of just keeping up with a lot of the events. There's a lot of flea markets and things like that. So keeping up with the big trends and events in that area, I think would be your best bet. And you can do a lot of outreach with them, bring them to the property, get your property or your staff there. That'll be a good outreach for there.
And I think posting on Instagram actual important stuff for the residents to know sometimes is very helpful, because I know I don't always check my email as much as I should, and sometimes I'll miss something important about room checks, or they have maintenance
The water's
coming.
got to be turned off on building 4.
Yeah. So I think that's very important, but other than that, I don't.
I would say one thing that I thought of is a lot of people that I know, and personally myself, follow a lot of like university accounts. So like U of SC Barstool account, like things like that. We have something called like South Carolina Chicks, and that's definitely something that pops up on a lot of people's feeds. People repost a lot of their posts. So a lot of like university focused accounts are what people follow. So maybe working with those, working with people, getting them to repost stuff like that, I think that would be really big, because that is like I would say the biggest media influence for, at least at USC.
Yeah,
So.
I agree with like in Clemson, we have Clemson Chicks, and then also a bunch of students follow all the bar accounts, and a lot of it really solely is on Instagram. So like maybe working with some of the bars for like a community event or something like that, or giving maybe some of your merch to the bars and they can post that they have it or anything like that. Just like the collaboration with all the restaurants or popular accounts on Instagram that are based around the university is like a really good idea, because personally I follow all of those. So
Great.
All right. Well, this has been very enlightening and a lot of fun. I would actually like everybody out there not just to give this group a round of applause.